Australia is a big country. Australia is also a land shaped by wildfire in many places. Join me as we travel around this great country, meeting people and talking with them, and together their stories will come together and help us better explain Australia's complex relationships with wildfire. Welcome to Talking Wildfire Australia, my friends. Hi and welcome. This is James Cole. We met in Tasmania on fire several years ago. And James has got a really unique background from work that he does in a lot of different places, in military and different things. James is a really good leader, but he also builds dynamic teams that operate in the field and are very strong because of what they're doing.
Well, leadership, that's a big subject in itself. Not everyone makes a leader. You got leaders there that probably shouldn't be leaders, and you just got natural leaders that do step up to the plate and take control. There's a lot of variables involved in leadership, and I think where it starts is in with yourself, and who you are as a person, what your values are. So I think if you're honourable, if you have patience, understanding, all the good virtues in which one should have in his character, goes a long way to be able to help lead other blokes in whatever you're leading him in. I think also the situation in what you're a leader as. So leading a group of people around a desk on some business job is a lot different to leading a crew of blokes on a fire ground in an arduous situation. A lot of blokes can be comfortably leading someone when there's no pressure. But when you have the threat of life and property at stake, to have a leader that's cool, calm and collected, that has respect for the situation, himself and his work and his men, makes a good leader. It goes a long way for that. I grew up with the military and I took leadership in there. A bit unique for myself is that we were talking about before, the horses. To be able to, because I do a lot of horse breaking and handling horses and the cav units overseas and that sort of stuff. Horses are a good equaliser because you can't lie to them, right? If you're angry towards them or aggressive towards them, you don't develop trust, and they're not going to do what you ask them to do because of your persona. So they keep you. If you're not going to be a decent leader, the horse ain't going to follow you. If you haven't got direction, so if I'm riding a horse for argument's sake, and I don't know where I'm going to go on this horse, then the horse will take control and go where he wants to go, which means I've lost leadership of the situation. So if I can't take control of the horse and say, right, I'm going point A to point B at whatever speed, you're coming with me, you're taking me, right? The horse will take control if you can't provide that leadership and go and does what he wants to do. Bucks or develops his own persona. So there's a lot of variables in leadership, and I don't think without experience, life experiences, and putting yourself in situations where you have to step up to the plate to develop your leadership skills, I think that goes a long way to do what you've got to do as a leader and help you understand your blokes and that sort of stuff, and yourself, understanding yourself.
Well, James, have you had experience with really good leaders and bad? And what's your good leaders? What do you see them do?
Well, I've seen good leaders don't micromanage, right? A good leader trusts his men. But you can only trust your men if you know your men know what to do in that situation. So if you go to a fire ground and you've got a crew of blokes standing there and you don't know the capabilities of that crew and those blokes, you don't know the attitude of each one of those fellas, then you sort of don't have that trust in them to be able to go and complete that task that you give them. So then you'll find a bloke standing over the top of them, micromanaging. Obviously the blokes are starting to get irritated by that. I think a good leader, well, I've had good leaders train, and it's a bit late to try and solve problems when you're on the fire ground in the heat of the moment, but a good leader will step back and mitigate those situations by training his men for those problems he gets on the fire ground, if you know what I mean. One bloke in particular is my brother, Matthew. He's a very good leader. And he's got a persona about him where he's cool, calm and collected no matter what the situation is. And because of his persona of being cool, calm and collected, and his honourable, his integrity's with it and everything, you trust him in his decisions he makes. You know, that sort of flows on to all his men. You can see it where they go about with confidence to do their taskings because their leader's got confidence and feeding that through to them, you know, and a lot of training, you know. You got to build a rapport with your men as a leader. You don't just rock up and start throwing orders about with someone you don't know, and that's a quick way to get someone disgruntled. Especially when you know a leader that comes in and starts throwing orders about and he hasn't had experience. You know, he hasn't got that proven ability to know what the job's about in the first place, which is another thing about a good leader is the leader knows his job, he knows the situation, he knows what's going on, he knows what the game plan is. He's not just rocking up not knowing what a fire looks like or the fire behaviour. You know, doesn't know how to handle a compass or work a radio. He was unconfident in starting a pump, and I've seen that before several times. Leaders come in, they don't even know how to handle or navigate, get to the fire ground, confused, which doesn't really give all the blokes in the crew any confidence in staying alive, especially when it comes to a life-threatening situation, life and property, as you do in bushfires, wildfires, you know. Yeah.
Well, I believe you also believe in training your people up so that they can help with leadership or they can take over in times. What's your thoughts on that?
Training, yeah, well, I do this with my fire crews when we do firefighting, when we've got time in this environment when it allows us. But particularly in Africa, when I'm running my ranges, I do a bit of a range leadership program for the young blokes who are in the unit on training. And I find a great equaliser is fitness, right? So when we're doing fitness, a lot of people don't like doing fitness anyhow, too hard. But you push them into it, and instead of doing 50, or 20 push-ups, you make them do 30 push-ups. Because the mind's going to give up before the body's going to give up. Right? And when I got blokes on the ground and they're doing this and I'm pushing them through, if they can develop their mind to push through these barriers that are stopping themselves, for argument's sake, if you're sitting there and you're going to do a fitness program and you turn around and say, I'm going to do, say, 50 squats. So you start doing your squats, you get up to 48, 47, 50, and you stop. Well, you could have kept going. So when you start, you say, I'm going to do 50. When you get to 50, you say, I'll do another 10. So you do another 10. I'm going to do another 10. Keep pushing that boundary out and out and out, expanding your mind, building that resistance in your mind to push further, to resist the pain, to resist stopping.
So you're building endurance.
In building endurance in the mind, right? So with leadership, when you're doing these fitness, you're pushing these blokes through the pain barriers, through the mental blocks they've got, and then afterwards, we have first parade or parade afterwards, and I get each bloke to come out the front, and I'll give them a 5-minute topic they've got to talk on, so they can then learn how to present that topic in front of all their peers on the spot, and to be able to, explain what the situation is.
So you're building them up, is what you see in leadership, to build your people up.
We've got to build them up. And also, by doing this, you soon find out who's going to be a natural leader and who's not going to be a natural leader. And so when it comes back to doing a tasking, so if you've got a fire crew there and say, a 10-pack of blokes, you've got yourself, if you've got to go away, you've got 2IC to take over. If he gets taken out of the picture, the next command is to go down the line. And and also in situations while we're training, so if I put in a training scenario of a flame over or something like that, I'll step out of the picture and I'll give it to one of the young blokes to run it. So then he's got to call the shots. So he's then getting the experience of being a leader and understanding what it takes and the things he's got to do in his mind to control. You'll find a lot of leaders, inexperienced leaders, especially on fire crews, who are new to being a leader. They'll jump out of the trucks and they'll grab a hose and start doing the work. That's not a leader's responsibility. The leader's got to step back and look at the overall picture, command and control. You can't command and control anything if you're standing on the hose putting water on a fire, right? So that's one thing when you make that transition from a follower or a worker to a leader. You've got to be able to pull yourself back, look at the situation, because not only you're directing that hose on that fire, but you also got to command the weather, you got to command communications, you got to command safety, situational awareness. And if you start getting narrow-minded on the fight, like as a normal firefighter, you're not going to be leading anything. That's when your crew starts falling apart, because they'll be looking around, you're on a hose over there somewhere, not doing your job as a leader's supposed to be doing. And the whole structure, command and control, starts falling apart. So training is leadership in training is an invaluable part, trying to bring younger blokes up to teach them how to take control of the situation. Controlling their emotions is a big thing. So if you start leading with emotions, you'll go pear-shaped real quick. Losing your temper, chucking tantrums. Not only it makes you look bad as a leader, but you also lose a lot of respect from your men.
How could you advise people that would have problems with that to deal with that?
Fitness. Yeah. Control yourself. Control your mind. Put yourself in situations where you've got to take control of the situation. Again, going back to breaking horses. Right? If I stepped into a yard with a horse that wants to challenge me pretty hard, that's nasty. You've got a bit of sass about him. And if I lost my temper, started smashing him about the head and chucking tantrums, getting up, physically getting emotional about it, I'm never going to beat him. He's always going to be over the top of me. He knows he's leading me. He's got control of me. I haven't got control of the situation. So, fitness. Put yourself in situations where you learn to control yourself. How to handle or mitigate that problem. So if you've got a fire front coming towards you, you don't understand the flame height, wind direction, and all the technical stuff that goes with it, as a leader should, then everything's going to fall apart. Control your emotions. I think also when it comes back to emotions, your fitness level has a great part to play with it. With all the, if you're eating badly and you're not sleeping well and that sort of stuff, you're irritable all the time. You're more, and when the pressure comes on you during a fire, or a firefight, or bushfire, or whatever, and you've got to start making decisions, and that pressure comes on you and you are unhealthy, not sleeping properly and all those problems, then you're more susceptible to snapping pretty quick in the mind.
James, what do you do for a break in that situation?
Myself, I've got a lot of things in my life that I do. So when I do like a 3-month operation in Africa, in that high intensity program, I come back here to Australia, and maybe I'll go do breaking horses for a couple of months. I don't stop working altogether, I don't stop doing what I do, I just change it. So the pressure's off, saying where I've got to run a lot of blokes in that environment, in that situation, I just change it up to coming back here to running horses and working with what I've got to work with here. Then I might go and do another job. I used to do a lot of flying. That was fun. It's still intense on the mind, especially when you're doing bush aircraft and bush flying. You know what it's like with the different temperatures, bush trips, all the calculations you've got to do. Still working the mind, but just changing it all the time, thinking outside the box, keeping moving. That's sort of how I relax. Yeah, I don't go to pubs or anything, or I don't take holidays. From there, during the day, I think, like each day, I think it's important to, I think you said, centre yourself. Fitness and your well-being, health-wise, is very important. So for argument's sake, you get out of bed of a morning, you do some exercise, have something good to eat, healthy, do some exercise, get the blood flowing, get the brain box working, or fire on all 8 cylinders, start focusing, plan your day and what you're going to do, and then attack it from there. And whatever comes up and what problems, you mitigate it. As I said, like a flat tyre, you don't lose your composure about it. Flat tyre, change it. We see a lot of blokes will have a hissy fit and get all emotional about it, and it is what it is. Relax, fix it, keep going, and so that's sort of how I sort of rest. Yeah.
So you see it about being in control of your environment and yourself and your people, and is that how you see leadership?
Yeah, take control.
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to values too. A big part, I believe, is morals, integrity, honour, respect. As a leader, I believe you've got to be a servant to your men. And when I say a servant, it doesn't mean you've got to bring them, cake and cookies all the time. It's about looking after them. So you're going to go into an arduous situation, say heavy fire, a lot of heat. So you make sure there's water there for the lads. You do a welfare check. You're looking tired, mate. Get some water in you. Go and sit down in the truck in the shade and cool off for 5-10 minutes before you kill yourself. You got any problems? Come and see me about whatever's going on. Injuries, we'll fix them. Back for you to do that. It's about looking after you, man. That's how you serve them, protect them. And in saying that too, a good leader to his men is to defend them from the higher ups too. Because I've had several situations, and I've been sacked for it, for looking after my blokes several times. But when the higher ups, the hierarchy, will come down and start hounding my blokes, right, and trying to take control of my fellas, I wouldn't be a leader if I just let that happen. So I'd say, you leave my blokes around, and you've got a problem, you come and talk to me and I'll sort it out. But I'll tell you what's going on and why these blokes are doing this, because I'm the leader. I made the choice, I made decisions to tell them to go and do that. And if you've got a problem with it, you come and talk to me. Don't rip it into my fellas. Good leaders willing to take that on the chin. Stand up and be accountable for the responsibilities. Because as a leader, you've got to make decisions, don't you? As a leader, we're the ones who've got to sit there and decide whether we're going to defend that house or not, you know. And if you've got your head in the right spot and say, well, you got your priorities right, so it's life and property, preservation of life and property on a fire ground, yeah? Life comes first, human, then animal, then property. Well, if I've got to sacrifice this house to save a life, well, I'll make that decision. Now, if I've got some hierarchy come bouncing in saying, oh, we should have defended the house at all costs, well, so that was my decision, because I think life's more important than a bit of house that can be rebuilt later on down the track. You know, so it's about, a good leader will stand up and be responsible for the decision he makes. And you will make wrong decisions, but also a good leader, when he does make a wrong decision, recognises he made the wrong decision and has the ability to turn around and turn a wrong into a right. Keep punching through. Don't let it take control of him. Don't get all emotional about it in the middle of the fight. You know, okay, made a wrong decision. Let's pick up, move forwards, and encourage all his men to move forwards too from that problem. So.
Well, James, as we wrap this up, can you think anything that you would like to suggest to people that want to be a good leader in the future, or that are just a kid growing up and they would like to follow a career in the military or in fire or adventure?
Yeah, I'd get your own life in order first. If you want to be a leader, you got to lead yourself. You know, look around in the world today. Where the leadership's in families. And if you can't lead a family, what makes you think you're going to lead other blokes outside the household? If you can't lead yourself, what makes you think you're going to lead a family? So I think it starts with yourself. Develop your character in the right way. Don't be lazy. If you've got a lazy leader, you're going to have lazy blokes. Right? If you want fit fellas, you've got to be fit too. You've got to lead by example. So if you're going to start on yourself at a young age and you're going to go into a possible leadership role through the fireys, military, or whatever direction you want to go in, get control of yourself first. Work your mind, push yourself through those barriers, get fit, and develop good character, honour, integrity. Your word's your word, and believe in yourself. Before you can start leading anything else, you've got to lead yourself. Yeah.
Well, James, thanks for coming out today, and for everybody out there, I thank you to you. We appreciate your time.
No problem.
We're doing this for all of you. If you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment below. See you next time.